The Knowledge and Learning Commons is a joint project between our library here as well as the Centre for Learning and Multilingualism to bring about this kind of space for informal learning, for knowledge, for collaboration, for information sharing on issues that are relevant to our professional growth and development at work, but also on issues more broadly related to multilateralism. And one of the streams that we have is Monday Motivation. So we thought we might start the year with a Monday Motivation session. This is not new. Last year we had a few sessions already under this stream, and they were related to working away from your desk, how to use Microsoft Teams, how to use Yammer. And today's session is actually particularly looking at online collaborative tools. Specifically, we're talking about the tools that you can use to collaborate with your teams no matter where you are, whether some are telecommuting and some are not, whether maybe you're in different buildings across the city. And in particular, we have today, we're going to look at those tools, but more so we're going to look at how you can use meetings. So, does anyone here telecommute? I telecommute once a week. Some of you might as well. Do you use meetings when you're telecommuting? Have you used them in the past, or would you like to know more about how to use them? This is what this session is for. We have here our colleagues from ICTS. Thank you very much, Darko and Abigail, for joining us. But before we do begin, we're going to have a brief introduction to the New Work Initiative. Some of it, if you don't know about it, is our culture and people change initiative for how we are developing as an organisation at UNOC, and also now across the UN. Olivia Starrenburg is here to explain more about New Work. So just for a few minutes before we begin, she would like to share more with you. Thank you.
So digital collaboration tools, tools that enable us to work more effectively in teams, across divisions, within our divisions, and also that enable us to work more flexibly, are some of the activities that are part of the New Work Culture Change Initiative. So you might have seen the New Work logo around the place. New Work, in case you're not yet familiar with it, is an initiative at UNOC and now more widely at UNHQ also, to create a new organisational culture at UN. It's about changing behaviours and processes, and it's about creating a more fulfilling and productive workplace for all of us as staff. Beneath the name New Work, importantly lies a vision for the kind of UN that we want for the future. But more practically, it includes an action plan about how we're going to get there. What are we going to do in order to be able to achieve this culture change within our organisation? And then importantly, it's something that is powered by us as staff across the organisation. It's made up of all of the positive changes that we can make within our work that are going to lead to this culture change. So to give you an idea of the New Work vision, we've basically explained this through 5 main themes. And those themes are innovation and risk-taking, empowered networks, collaborative environment, working flexibly, and fit for the future. And I'll just take a couple of minutes to explain very briefly a bit more about that. So innovation and risk-taking is really about creating a culture where we value innovation and where we mainstream finding new and better ways of doing things in our work. It's about having a culture where we dare to take risks in order to find these better solutions. And there are a number of activities that have been held over the past year and will continue in the year ahead with regard to innovation and risk-taking. So some of you may have attended or participated in the Dragon's Den Challenge or in some of the 100-day innovation challenges that were held last year. So these are the kinds of events and activities that are being run to help promote innovation and risk-taking within the organisation. Empowered networks is a relatively new theme to the New Work vision, and that's really about empowering teams and setting up teams and decision-making around projects. So the activities for that are being developed at the moment, but it's likely to include some kind of a framework for piloting decision-making within a team's structure, as opposed to more traditional hierarchies. Collaborative environment is fairly self-explanatory, but it's really about increasing collaboration within teams, but also in teams that extend beyond sort of traditional divisions as well. Various initiatives have been set up to help promote that. For example, the Microsoft Teams demonstration that you will have today. Some of you may also have heard about the pilot of a collaborative technique called huddles, which has been run in different teams across the organisation and is going to be rolled out more widely as well to those teams who are interested in finding out more, along with trainings on how to use those collaborative meeting techniques. Working flexibly is really about creating a culture where there is broad acceptance of flexible working arrangements. There was a lot of promotion that happened over the last year and will continue about the improved flexible working arrangements policy. And there's been training also done, I think, of about 220 staff and 120 managers so far on working effectively through a flexible working arrangement. And then finally, fit for the future is really about creating a culture that values the capacity building of staff and values building up the skills of staff in order for them to be effective in our rapidly changing environment. So events such as this, where staff are able to learn about new digital technologies, and various briefings also have been held on to really sensitize staff and help staff to understand about emerging technologies, AI, blockchain, all of these kinds of things. So that gives you just a very brief overview of the new work vision and some of the many activities that are being developed by staff to help support that vision. There are going to be more and more opportunities for greater numbers of staff to get involved in it. And so I do encourage you over the course of the year to look out for more opportunities like that, which will be sort of more actively communicated to staff as well. I think eWork really creates an opportunity for all of us who have great ideas about how we can improve things at UN to use new work as an opportunity to do that. If you'd like to find out a bit more about IC, there is a bit more about new work. There is a page also on IC. I can give you that.
Thank you very much, Olivia. So let's get started. Just to give you a brief overview of the time we have today. As mentioned, we're going to be looking particularly at online collaborative tools and how this can support also your meetings. And if we take a look at this diagram here, our colleagues from ICTS will be looking at Unite VC, so how you can plan and organize video conferencing as part of a collaboration online. They'll then be moving on to Skype for Business and MS Teams. You can use both to hold meetings online, so they'll be showing you both, and also the benefits and maybe some challenges with both, before moving on to best practices if you're holding online collaborations. And this has been based on experience from different teams and also ICTS and the experience they have and how you can create the most welcoming and effective environment online to hold productive meetings as well. So let's get started. I'll hand over to Darko Karlica from ICT Service Support. He's the chief there at Service Support. And Abigail, Knickerbocker, who's just behind here, she'll also be doing the demonstration for you. At any time, please put your hand up to ask questions. They're here for an interactive session. We're doing the demonstrations for about 30 minutes, after which we have the desks at the back. Our IT colleagues will be here for you one-on-one troubleshooting as well if you have particular questions. Okay, thank you very much. Over to you, Dan.
Thank you, Natalie. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really pleased to see you in this number here. That means you are very interested in the subject. We are here to explain you, as Natalie said, available collaboration meeting tools we have today in our environment. We all know what is video conferencing, and certainly some of us were there daily, some of us we were on these meetings here and there. Apart from the regular video conferencing, which is called Unite VC, these days we have an opportunity to have collaboration tools on our desktops, on our mobile devices, etc. Let me start with asking a question. Who here does not use WhatsApp? Everyone is using it. So, how many of you were at the airports or train stations somewhere and seen people shouting at their screen? Yeah. While microphone is actually here. And that's the reason why we are here, to explain you do's and don'ts, what one should be using, doing and not doing while using some of these new technologies, regardless of what they are. For your information, video conferences undertaking major overhaul as we speak. And our colleagues in ICT along with us are trying to integrate as much as possible these technologies. So to make a seamless transition for you, irrespective whether you are joining video conference or whether you are using a Teams meeting or Skype for Business or Skype on your regular private account or WhatsApp or whatever. I'm not saying WhatsApp will be part of the video conferencing, I'm just saying all these technologies use similar software mechanisms, so it's possible to integrate these things. I will try to start with a small video that our colleagues put up about United PC to show you how to go about video conferencing. That's a link. That video is actually here. It's available for all of us.
Hello and welcome to this instructional video, where we will introduce how to manage events in Unite VC. Unite VC contains 3 different types of events: video conference, audio conference, and room booking only. Events can be created from the agenda in 2 ways. With one click on the actual meeting date, or clicking on the New Event button. The event details form will be displayed in the right panel. The event is created in 2 phases. The first phase requires the basic event information to be entered. We will walk you through this phase now. Start by selecting the required event type. In this demo, we select video conference. Then, type the event title, which briefly describes the purpose of the meeting, such as weekly project board meeting. Next, you will specify the event date and time. Although the dates and times are preset based on the event creation, they can be changed. Save on travel requires a yes/no answer. When all this information is populated, click Save as Draft to save the details presented and to complete phase 1 of an event creation. Phase 2 requires the following information to be entered: purpose of the event. Expand the drop-down list and select the most appropriate purpose. For our board meeting, project status update is the most suitable one. If the event needs to reoccur frequently, check the reoccurring checkbox and in the pop-up window specify the frequency of the event. A video conference or an audio conference event takes place between 2 or more participants. The event creator, known as the event owner, and other participants, added by clicking Add Participant link and typing their emails in the search field. Note that Unite VC recommends that participants in the same site, that is, UNOG or ICLAC or UNOV, connecting to the same event, do so by sharing a room. In this demo, the participants grid shows 2 additional participants to our project board meeting: Jose Fernandez from UNICTF, Claudine Bakay from UNOG, and Constatin Tawfiq from UNHQ. We will review the participants grid in more detail in another video. At this point, the phase 2 is now complete and the event can be...
So you get the picture, right? There is a reason why I played this video. The more we play this video, more we learn. Now we'll see rest codes later on. Simple as that. Apart from that, in video conferencing, one can have a virtual meeting room that can be allocated to some of the video conferencing terminals here. So in the interface, in the terminal, you will be able to select a private meeting room, and anyone who knows the dial plan will be able to join the meeting room. Similar works with MS Teams and Skype for Business. What we would like to highlight here as well, and I'm going to use the material from our colleagues from the field, this is what you should be doing and not to be doing in the conference. So, if you look into this old ICT Insider from the old times, so, wrong file.
Just also to stress what the video you just saw, the Unite VTC, that's used for more formal meetings, where generally you and your colleagues are in a large room that has the video conferencing capabilities.
And Abigail, for the rooms that have the video conferencing capabilities, how do we know which rooms have that capability to be able to organize meetings between, I don't know, Geneva and New York, etc.?
That information can be found on iSeek, and also, as you saw in the video, when you reserve certain rooms, it will explain exactly what's available in each room. And we can also have the equipment placed in a room if you need it for something very specific.
So, what we wanted to highlight here, whatever sort of online meeting you have, if you look at this screen environment, it's very pale color in the back end. There is no direct light, there is no windows, there is no doors. There is no any electronic devices on the table apart from the telephones. This is very important that we adhere to when we have video conferencing, because all these are distractors for having normal conversation. The rule of thumb is if you don't speak, mute the device. Otherwise, there is lots of interference. For example, we used to have meetings with 50 different locations in the video conference. Somebody dials into the Jabber client and somebody is typing on the keyboard at the same time and everyone hears that. So please be mindful that once you have a video conference, you may affect others. So let me show you an obvious example. On the very next page of the same document, what's wrong here? It's pretty much everything. There is a door open, there is a window open, there is a direct light, participant is in the shade, you can see what's happening in this area of the table, if the archway is here or something. Remember my story about talking to the screen instead of to the microphone. So please be mindful when you join any of the online meetings that this is affecting all other participants. Any questions?
You talked about, the keyboard being, and it made me think about, all persons, meaning there are some persons with disabilities that actually, they need the keyboard to communicate. So have you incorporated that into your system? This is the first question. And the second question is, the interface you showed with how to set up meetings, is it built for Outlook? Because I'm in the agency and we have a similar system, but we can't go to to do it. So I'm just wondering what system is built for.
This is the global system based on the FSS. It's based on the United VC is built around it, and it's independent of any internal email solution you may have.
So, if you would like to set up a video conference, it's not at all linked to Outlook?
No.
Okay. How do we get there?
The site is, the link is at the beginning of the page. This is the link. We see Unite at the top. And there is credentials there that you're required to enter. If you don't have one, there is a link down below that will actually let you ask for your credentials here. This is a field solution.
I'm sorry, we are not able to see the link. I'm sorry, we are not able to see the link. The color is very dark.
I'm sorry. It's, yeah.
This information will be available later too, so that you, yeah.
It's vc.united.org. Regarding typing during the meetings, participant can use the chat room and conversation room, even though if he or she is muted, that should be visible to everyone on the meeting. Yes, please.
During your presentation of the different modalities for having videos, could you indicate which, if any, you're able to invite non-UN participants to? Some are completely internal, and other, if you have a consultant, for example, who doesn't have a UN email address, is there a solution that works for that and not for that?
That's a very good question, and thank you for asking it. SOP on sharing the content is just been signed by the Director of ICT. The policy is being reviewed. That applies also to sharing documents. There is already interface available for video conferencing for external dial-ups, and you will see in calendar invitations that there is a number that somebody can dial up from outside. On MS Teams, I'm also aware that team in Valencia is building the bridge to public PSTN, so there will be a possibility to invite external candidates to meetings. It just works slightly differently. There is attendees, there are presenters and attendees in the meeting. You'll see the interface page quite soon. So somebody internally needs to admit someone to enable full features of the system.
Hello. Yeah, I have actually the same question, so I think this is not answered. So it's internal only for people that are in directory, and to be in the directory you need to have, I guess, Unite ID or what's the... Okay. So, and for the future maybe it will be also open for the external participants. I have maybe different but similar question. Usually we are using a lot of tools since the beginning of the year, you know, like 2 weeks. I use GoToMeetings, Zoom, Skype for Business, Skype, Microsoft Teams, just to accommodate some of the calls. So in this case, this is additional tool. If I understand correctly, the benefit is that this is integrated into Rooms, which is the unique. Is there any other advantage if I need to organize conference? Okay, only for the internal people. Which one I should take, and why should I take, for example, this one over other options?
We'll come to that.
Okay.
We'll come to that. We started with presenting the official conference and the possibilities we have here, including the large meeting rooms and assembly halls. And these events are controlled.
Mm-hmm.
Now we are going to a non-controlled territory.
Perfect, thanks.
So, Skype for Business and things are, so we can say, still in this other area where we can have much more ad hoc meetings, irrespective of the location, and without depending on the facilities. I'm going to play one more very short video on MS Teams. That is self-explanatory. First and foremost, you have an invitation. You need to ensure which devices you're going to be using before the call. There is a numbering blank here for external participants. With ID.
We'll go through an example of this. One thing is that you can create a
Simple, right? I would like to highlight here at the 1.2 video, you need to choose. I know some of our colleagues already had problems. I don't hear you, I don't see you. You need to choose and verify the devices you are using. And we already highlighted one of the technical difficulties in the age, having 1,500 Bluetooth devices in the vicinity. So how they're going to communicate with each other, because most of us will have headphones, we'll join online meetings. It's very important that you verify which device you will be using for that call, and whether you hear properly and see properly during the call. Settings can be always changed here. So,
You can also change your options throughout the meeting.
and yeah, but it's our advice is make sure plans before the meeting that everything is working properly. Any questions? Shall we try to? Yes.
So how do you access this MS Teams?
Once you're a member of the team, you can access it on web, you can access it on your phone, and you can have a desktop application to use it. You have to be a member of the team, MS Team, to be used at MS Team.
So how do you
For example, you can join new or knowledge learning commons team site, and then you can access all this information. If you notice, we are using this PowerPoint presentation for MS Teams. We don't have it on our devices.
So to download Teams then, you can go online and then you use your Outlook details. Sorry, it's me.
Thank you.
And you should be able to install this if you have the ICTS laptop. And even if you go to Outlook.com, Teams is an option. You don't even need to install the application.
So how can I be invited to join the new work?
The new work Teams, yes.
And so the new work team is, I guess, the corporate device that is started working on the corporate initiative. But in the coming months, it's going to be an official SharePoint site set up to really expand this and talking about to get their staff involved and involved in supporting it. But I think probably perhaps this question and other questions for people is, if they want a team on MS Teams, how do they go about creating that and setting that up?
So again, a team in MS Teams, you can create one for any project that you're working on. And each organization, unit, service has an IT focal point, and you can request to create a team. It's not possible for everyone to create their own team because already you can see that I have quite a number of teams here, and if we created them individually, it might get out of hand. As long as your IT focal point creates it, then each team ends up having an administrator. And you can always add members to it. So again, this is the new work team, and you can see who's a member of it. The owners are the ones who are able to administrate, who can be added to the team. They can add users who are already there to be administrators who can manage the team as well. So your IT focal points can do that. Teams of any size. But everybody should have access.
My question was very specific. I'd like to join the new work team. I'm not sure whether I'm doing this yet. Would that be possible?
Shall we talk?
Okay.
There's information on ICTS about opportunities for change champions, people who really want to help drive culture change in the teams. So and there's information on how to do that. But yeah, I'm very happy to talk to everyone.
As we highlighted before, as we highlighted in the beginning, there will be a couple of us at the back to answer potential questions you may have individually.
Do you have a life cycle policy for example, to apply retention days, to delete documents?
The official UN policy, document management policy applies. So the retention schedule is more than 10 years for most of these things. And for financial and personal data is lifetime.
Okay. Thank you.
I would like to bring you point, oh, you have another question? Would like to bring the point to this site. It's OICT endorsed, CETO signed off, the Learning Center, Office 365 Learning Center that was developed in collaboration with Microsoft, where you can find most very useful material regarding Skype for Business, for MS Teams, for Nightmail, everything we are recently using, and it's accessible to everyone. I don't send any collaboration anymore without URL to this site, because I want everyone to spend some time. There are videos, there are Teams links, there is Help Center, there is training resources on Microsoft sites. For example, the video I just played on MS Teams is also an open source. You're very welcome to explore it yourself.
So if you have more questions about what is Teams, what is OneDrive, and the difference between those, what to use for each one, I think we'll talk about that in future sessions. But today, mostly the focus is on meetings. So maybe we can move on and we'll go through an example of creating an MS Teams meeting.
Someone has MS Teams installed here on their mobile phones. Maybe you'd like to join the call.
So there are two different options. Everything is integrated. So here you can see on my screen that this is my Outlook. If I create a new meeting, just through Outlook, which you all have access to, you can always make it a Teams meeting or a Skype for Business meeting. Again, we can go through exactly examples of why you would use Skype for Business, why you would use Teams. And when you click on, so again, you create the meeting that you would like to, with the location, you don't do the location because it's an online meeting. You click on Teams meeting, and it automatically creates the link. Then you have and then that will show up for each user, and they will just simply click on that to join the meeting. Otherwise, if we go straight into Teams, we can either create the new meeting here, which is the exact same functionality, but directly within MS Teams, or we can also do Meet Now, which is if you're working remotely or if you're on the go and your team decides, or a group of you and your colleagues decides that it would be smart to just meet and get together quickly, you can do that. Again, we have the options here. Just make sure that you go through them. I will talk to you about the second one, which is the blur option. This is also actually useful. It blurs the background behind you. So this is if you happen to be at an airport, if you happen to be at home, and maybe you didn't clean your kitchen. You can use the blur option, and then it just gives a more professional look to the call.
So how do you call me or join the meeting?
So I've started the meeting, and this is where I can automatically start inviting.
Hello? So other meetings.
So Darko has joined my call from his mobile phone. Natalie is back at the desk. She's also joined my call. I'll just call him and Karlica also.
Sorry, one more that's going on.
Yes.
There's start recording here, so can you do that as you can do for Skype for Business as well?
Yes, you can. That's one of the options, is that you can record the video, which can be quite useful. Again, if we talk about best practices, everybody on the call will be aware that it's being recorded, but it's something to, when we have our meetings, if it's going to be recorded, we always mention that at the beginning. This call is being recorded, it can be recorded later. There are options, again, I can turn off my video at any time, and then everybody can see that I'm still on the call. We can add additional users, we can have the conversation going on the side in case you're all, yes.
Is this free?
Yes, it is, yes.
It's free.
Yes.
So regardless whether the person that's joining is from another agency, or I mean not the UN, like a member state, or
I guess that refers to the other question about external.
yeah, the same. So that's okay.
Yeah, everyone mute yourself. Or Abby, show us the option you don't.
I should be able to mute everybody. Yeah, I'm muted.
Sorry, I was creating that.
Thank you. Okay. That's basically how that works in MS Teams itself. And again, you can create the invitations throughout as well.
When you set up the meeting, on the right-hand side of that page, there was resources. Where you, on the when you set up the meeting, on the right-hand side, there was a pull-down menu where you could select resources, where you showed us this UN site thing. For us, it's split into Outlook, so you can select the meeting rooms, those with video conferences and everything, so we have it all.
Oh, again, we'll try to answer the question separately because I'm aware of the ACR setup,
Okay.
so it's slightly different.
So what I'm trying to ask is that in here, the resources part is black. There isn't that possibility to see.
Well, administrator no limits certain technical capabilities of the system for you, so that all depends on the organization itself. Any other questions, John?
Up to how many participants can be in a meeting?
Sorry?
Up to how many participants can be in a meeting?
I was on video conferencing with more than 50 different sites. When it comes to MS Teams, it's a question of manageability, obviously, here, how many participants are muted and locations. I've been also in meetings with 150 participants on Skype for Business, which is, Skype for Business is basically the same tool, just integrated in MS Teams. One of the most common questions one will ask, when I should use Skype for Business, when I should use MS Teams. Depends on the availability, obviously, whether you have a client installed on your device, where your quality of the connection. I tend to recommend to use MS Teams because majority of the technical things are happening in cloud level, so there is no much bandwidth traffic in and out as much as it is with Skype for Business. So it tends to be more stable.
Sorry, just have one question. First of all, thank you so much for showing all the tools. So I've seen that you have Unite VC and all this. The thing is, how do we get access to Unite VC? Is it accessible for everyone with your Unite identity? You can just go to the URL and then you can create your own meeting. So that's my first question. Then also we have MS Team, and then Skype for Business, and then Cisco Chapter, and all of these have capacity to actually have a meeting. So my question is like, to go forward with all this all-out collaboration, have we decided which tool we're going to use in the future? Because the problem that we have at the moment is that I actually have to work with some consultant with SHP, and some of them work from home. It's become very difficult to actually have a meeting. Sometimes we organize a meeting, there's some tool that they cannot access. For example, Skype for Business, because they don't have Office 365 account. And then for Unite VC, also I don't think they have access because they don't have Unite ID. For Cisco Jabber, it seems to work, but then for MS Team, sometimes when we add too many people, it seems there's a problem with a bandwidth. So the question is like, I just want to know which tool I should use to have a meeting, a virtual meeting with all these SHP people. And if we can maybe have another session on how to create like all these meetings, we really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And sorry I asked a lot of questions, but I just really wanted to.
Okay, you feel the important. Let me start backwards here. There will be a monthly motivation session on a similar subject. Next month we will discuss Microsoft Teams in details. Month after that we will talk about the United Workspace project, what is OneDrive, SharePoint, what is MS Teams, and how they collaborate. To answer your second question, all tools are here to stay, and they are available as such. As I said at the beginning, video conferencing facility should be booked through the presented tool to access your details, which is not in your email address, and sometimes you will need to register, and that assures you bridging for video conferencing, including the conference room facilities, where you can dial in your Java client as well. Ad hoc Java discussions should not be expanded for more than a couple of participants. For those things, I will use Skype for Business. Microsoft Teams are ideal for departmental level. The first thing Microsoft consultant told me about MS Teams is if you use MS Teams within your department, drop an email completely. You don't need it on the department level. So that gives you an idea how Microsoft Teams should be used. We also said that sharing with external parties SOP endorsed by ICT this month. So we are awaiting instructions how to invite external participants and how to share content with external participants.
Also, just to address the bandwidth question, Darko's mentioned with MS Teams, you mentioned, Kate, that you've had trouble bandwidth issues with MS Teams. In general, we've been on working group calls, global working groups, and there can be 30 to 50 people. As long as the videos are turned off, and again, you saw I have the option to turn off incoming videos, and again, it's just a question of best practices. If you know you're on a call with 30 to 50 people, not all 30 to 50 people are talking. There's basically, in that case, there's usually one coordinator who's talking at a time. So that's a case where it wouldn't be like the example that we just gave where everybody's video calling in. You would dial in and have more of an audio call. So that's one thing to try.
So once you create an invite or a meeting on Teams, or once you start a call on Teams, who can you add exactly or invite to that meeting? Because you mentioned earlier that we have to ask one of our focal points to create Teams because we can't do it ourselves. So does that mean that once Team is created, there's a set of email addresses or names who belong to that group or team, and you can only add or invite those people to a particular meeting on Teams, or how does that work?
No, this was just an ad hoc meeting. I can invite anybody who's in my address book, basically. So that was an example of creating an ad hoc meeting through Teams, and the names that were available there are everybody in my address book. So again, Clemens was not in the team. I wasn't attached to a team in that case.
I mean, address book on the. When you say address book, are you referring to the UN directory?
In Outlook.
Or, okay, okay.
And I said at the beginning that our colleagues in UNGC are just installing interface to public telephone network. So you will be able to invite somebody on the ordinary telephone line from outside.
So in that case, what is the reason for us being unable to create teams ourselves and having to go through an IT focal point to create teams?
So I think this will be, one of the things is the links that Darko was showing you. If you go and read more about what MS Teams is used for, and that will be covered in another Monday Motivation, it explains that you have teams relate to projects and you can have channels and conversations within them. And that's really specifically for a group of people who are working on one thing initially. But again, if anybody in this, we can specifically do afterwards. If you're not using MS Teams right now and you don't have access to it, if you want to use it directly from your mobile device, as Darko was doing, that needs to be installed. You can install it. I'm using the application on my laptop. You don't need to do this either. You all have access to it from Outlook.com. But otherwise, if you have specific questions for yourself and you want to use it as soon as you leave this, we can help you with that in the back also, with installing it.
Of course, don't use it from driving car because your bandwidth may be quite limited if you enter tunnel.
We've seen that happen. I've been on a call with somebody driving.
Any other question? Thank you for your participation. I said this will be repeated on a monthly basis throughout the year. We'll also on Thursdays we'll have